Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and welcome to a special live edition of the State of the Saints podcast. I'm recording live in my home. Of course, you already know what's going on, man. The world is crazy right now. People quarantining, and the government is telling people to stay indoors. And I just so happen to be off today from my job. But I just wanted to go live because, there's not really many opportunities. I can go live during the day at my home. Most of the time I'm at the radio station putting in work. I work as an afternoon DJ, and, it takes up the majority of my time. So I try to do it on my lunch breaks. But I just want to get some take on, or get people's take on the New Orleans Saints. First off, I just want to say to each and every one of you, I hope that you all are safe. I hope that your family is safe, and I hope that we all get through this tough time that we're dealing with. I know this is a huge transition. I know there's a lot of things closing. There's a lot of places that we normally go, we can't go right now. But let's just all just keep the faith, man, and just keep moving forward and press together in the Who That Nation. But I want to talk about the New Orleans Saints free agency. As you know, the Saints, they didn't really add too many people, man. The only person that they added was Malcolm Jenkins as of right now. Malcolm Jenkins coming back to the New Orleans Saints. Some people are excited about that. Some people aren't. But I want to start it off, this whole conversation, because I talked about Malcolm Jenkins and how I felt about it last night on the live. And, I talked a little bit about, what I feel like he would bring to the team. But I want to talk about the NFC South, man. I mean, the NFC South right now on paper is looking like the best division in football. I mean, you add Tom Brady to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a whole different beast. You got Ty Gurley going to the Atlanta Falcons. You got Teddy Bridgewater out there in Carolina along with Keith Kirkwood. There's a lot of guys, that are coming to this division and also leaving teams in this division to go to other teams to help them become successful. And I'm hearing a lot of people, in my inbox, they're saying they're starting to get nervous. They're starting to get afraid. They're getting afraid because, you're looking at Tampa getting Tom Brady. You're looking at Carolina getting Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of new faces are going to be on the Carolina Panthers team. Ty Gurley coming. People aren't as optimistic about the Saints winning the division as they have in years past. And my only question to those people is why? Why are you so, afraid of the NFC South? I mean, the New Orleans Saints have played really well over these past 3 seasons to get 3 straight division wins. And I still feel like the New Orleans Saints are the best team in this division. No doubt about it. Like, you can go ahead and plug and place and you can get whoever you want to. But the Saints have been putting in this work for 3 seasons, and they've been successful. And it's going to take a lot more than, Teddy Bridgewater going to Carolina, or even a 42-year-old Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to take the Saints out. Because I think the Saints understand what it is, man. They understand that they're not going to have too many opportunities with Drew Brees as a quarterback to try to win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady, no disrespect to him, but I don't think that he could play on the level he's played all those years. People are giving him the benefit of the doubt. They're saying that the New England Patriots last season didn't have any weapons and stuff like that, and he can't carry a team anymore. And they give them the benefit of the doubt. It's funny to me, but they'll turn around and they'll criticize Drew Brees for not being successful all those years when he didn't have a defense. That just shows you right there the hypocrisy of the National Football League. But anyway, I got a lot of respect for Tom Brady. I can't poo-poo on what he's done. Honestly, the AFC East, they dominated the AFC East for the majority of his career out there. I think they won like maybe 18 division titles. I mean, that's insane. This guy been to the Super Bowl 9 times, won 6. I mean, Tom Brady has done it all, but I just don't think that he's just going to come in and, just going to dominate the division. I think Drew Brees got something to say about that. And if you know Drew Brees, you know that Drew Brees is extremely competitive. He's really competitive, man. Drew Brees don't want to lose in nothing. Like, when you watch those quarterback challenges during training camp, when he loses, man, he starts wincing and really frustrated that he lost. And, I don't think that Tom Brady is going to knock him off the throne. I think that's going to encourage Drew to play at an even higher level because Drew never got his comeuppance. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it. Let's just call it for what it is. He does not get the respect for being an elite quarterback. He's the one of those guys that people just kind of look at and say, yeah, he got all the numbers, but they don't look at him as an elite quarterback. And if that 100 anniversary team didn't show you that, then I don't know what will. I mean, it was clear that Drew Brees should have been on that list. I mean, but they didn't put him on there. So that shows you right there the National Football League don't really respect him as a quarterback. And don't think that that's not going to be fuel to the fire. I mean, this is the same guy who went on Rich Eisen's show, and he read like his scouting report, and they had some negative thoughts about him. He took it with him from the Rich Eisen show and put it in his locker as motivation. So don't think that just because, Drew Brees wasn't on the 100 list, no matter what he says, it bothers him that he wasn't picked among his peers to be on that top 100 team. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do this season. Is he the same old Drew Brees of old? Absolutely not. But I think that he still has enough to get the Saints where they need to be. I think he can do his part. But this is right here, man. This is Q&A. I mean, y'all can ask me anything you want pertaining to the Saints. If be any questions, Brad, there'd be a free agent, acquisition that you feel like the Saints need to go after. Maybe like, what position you want the Saints to focus on, rather it be the draft, or what are you saying from the New Orleans Saints? So I'm going to open the floor up to you all. I'm going to go ahead and get this party started. Sean Phillips said, who that? What's going on, Sean? Thank you very much for checking out the live. Preston, was that Dedro? He says, we need to go get Dez Bryant. Man, I'm kind of up in the air with that, but I will say this. Dez Bryant, I mean, he is on the street, and what could it hurt for him to come to the New Orleans Saints? Even if they – he go to training camp and he don't pan out. I mean, no harm, no foul. I think the last time they signed him, it was nothing but like $1 million or something. It's not like his phone is ringing off the hook, because if it did, then I'm pretty sure teams would have signed him already. So why not Dez Bryant? He looked good as far as like his workouts and stuff like that. So why don't they just bring him in? So did Von Bell not want to come back to the Saints, or is he chasing more cash? Sean, there's a report that was coming out, and like I said, a report. I mean, all this is just, this is just people just throwing stuff in the air. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how much validity it has, but they're saying that Von Bell had a contract with the New Orleans Saints. Well, the New Orleans Saints offered Von Bell a contract, and he turned it down. So I guess it was that he wanted more money. I don't know if he's going to get more money, because the free agent, the free agent spot for safeties are very hard, man. Like, safeties don't really get that much money in free agency. So I don't know what he's looking for. Maybe you feel like the Saints lowballed him. You feel like he's worth more. I don't know. But all I know right now, as of right now, he's on the street. I think Von Bell will come back. We offered him $7.5 million a year. He turned it down, thinking he is worth more, but no one is offering him more. Scott, there's some truth behind that, man. The safety position is one of those positions where people just don't want to pay those guys. I mean, unless your name is, Ed Reed back in the day, or in this case, Earl Thomas, unless you one of those guys, they ain't trying to break the bank in order to get you. And I even put Derwin James out there, the guy out there playing for the Chargers. I'll put him in that discussion as well if he can stay healthy. But nobody really wants to pay a safety, man. I mean, they feel like they can – they feel like they can get anybody to play at that position, So it's not like one of those positions where a lot of people are like, man, we need ourselves a lights out safety. Nah, most of the time they're just looking for a guy that can tackle, and also a guy that won't get beaten coverage. And, they don't be trying to pay these guys a whole bunch of money. What I'm wondering about is we lost 2 starting cornerbacks, our starting safety. We need a real number 2 receiver. We lost our linebackers. We need to fill our holes. What are your thoughts? You saying what I'm worried about is we lost 2 starting cornerbacks. Who were the starting cornerbacks that we lost? Well, Eli Apple is one. And who was the other one? Who was the other one that the Saints lost? But anyway, I'm not concerned about that. Eli Apple went down And I think the Saints did a really good job with guys that filled in. I mean, they bringing back Patrick Robinson. Patrick Robinson, only knock with him is he been hurt. I mean, he played really well in a few games down the stretch. And, I just think that Eli Apple, he kind of struggled, man. Let's not fool ourselves here. I mean, the guy struggled down the stretch. And I think that we just need to understand that. Good luck to him in Las Vegas. I hope he has a lot of success. But I think that the Saints, I think they can draft themselves another cornerback and maybe like get another slot corner. Like I said, Nikhil Roby-Coleman is one guy I feel like the Saints need to go after. He did a really good job in the slot. You put him alongside Patrick Robinson, that can be your slot guys. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who can play multiple positions. He can play the strong safety position, and he can also play inside, in a slot. So, I mean, you got guys that can play multiple positions. So I'm not really concerned about that. And we're talking about needing a real number 2 receiver. I mean, that's going to come, man. I don't think that you're going to find this guy in free agency. I think that you want a number 2 receiver, you draft one. You get a guy that's a wide receiver in free agency. I'm not looking for him to be the number 2. I hear people talking about Emmanuel Sanders, who I feel like would be a good pick. I think Emmanuel Sanders would be a good pick, but being the number 2 receiver, yeah, maybe for a couple of years, but he's like 32 or 33 years old, man. How many good, solid years you're going to get out of him, is the question. I mean, he's a really good route runner. He got a little speed on him and stuff like that, so I feel like he's going to be playing for a long time. But eventually, he's still going to slow down. I mean, even the greats slow down, no matter if they're still catching the ball or not. But I think the Saints need to focus on trying to find their number 2 receiver in the draft, man. I mean, I said this earlier today, and people were debating me about this. I mean, it's just my honest opinion, man. I don't feel like teams can get built through free agency. And people, were throwing names. Well, what about the Kansas City Chiefs? The Kansas City Chiefs did not build their team in free agency. They did not. Like people are making it seem like the Kansas City Chiefs just went out here and just started buying up all these free agents and all of a sudden they became champions. No, man. You look at the core of the Kansas City Chiefs team. I mean, it consists of a young quarterback and Patrick Mahomes. It consists of a young tight end and Travis Kelce, a young wide receiver and Tyreek Hill. I mean, even Hartman, you know what I'm saying? They drafted him. You went out there and you got yourself the Honey Badger and you got the linebacker from the Seattle Seahawks that kind of, anchor your defense, and Terrell Suggs, you were able to pick him up late, but he came in late. It's not like they just went out there and just opened up the checkbook and bought a whole bunch of players. And I just don't understand the logic in that, man. And then, if the Saints were to use that same logic, you'll get mad. And I know you would get mad because in the past you did get mad. When the Saints went out there and they went go get Jarius Byrd and they paid him all that money. And then they started to get all these other cornerbacks like Keenan Lewis and Brandon Brown and bringing these guys in that were just, making an embarrassment of the Saints defense. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people were just so frustrated about those moves. So don't give me that stuff like, oh, man, the Saints need to go out here. They need to make a splash in free agency. No, they don't. I mean, the Saints don't really make splashes in free agency. It's the last time they made a splash in free agency, man. I mean, you had some good guys, but you got to look at it this way. The New Orleans Saints, for the most part, get guys that nobody really pay that much attention to. Nobody was really paying attention to A.J. Klein because Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis was out there, and he was like the third wheel, and the Saints picked him up, and he was pretty solid for the team. Nobody was checking for Demario Davis. Nobody even knew who Demario Davis was. This guy was a guy that was kind of a rotator guy on the Cleveland Browns team and on the Jets. Nobody knew what it was. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people had to use Wikipedia just to know who Demario Davis was. I mean, people like, Larry Warford. Larry Warford came from Detroit. I mean, nobody knew who these guys was. So it's not always about the sexy names and big splashes in order for these guys to contribute. So I think that we need to understand you need a balance of guys that you can get in the draft. You need to start drafting young players. That is what is going to keep your team afloat for years to come, because you got at least about 3 or 4 years where you don't have to worry about paying these guys. That's why a lot of people are frustrated in the Who Dat Nation, because they feel like that window is closing. Now you're going to have to start paying the 2017 class that was so good. They already put the 5th-year option on Ryan Ramczyk and Marshawn Lattimore. You got to start thinking about paying these guys now in order for you to, even keep your team afloat. The Saints are going to have to start hitting it big in the draft once again, like they did in 2017, if they want to consider themselves being contenders for years to come, because some of these younger teams in these divisions are coming. They are coming, folks. They are coming through, and the Saints aren't going to be able to rely on Drew Brees bailing them out, because Drew Brees is eventually going to leave the Saints and retire. So they're going to have to hit big in the draft. You're not going to win no Super Bowls just trying to go out here getting big splash players. We all love big splash players. We all want the Saints to have those guys that can make plays and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you get yourself a young kid with a lot of potential, and you develop them in your system, and those guys become key contributors. Nobody knew who Michael Thomas was, really, man. Michael Thomas was like the second, even third best receiver on Ohio State team. Excuse me. He was. And, nobody was paying attention to him, man. Everybody just thought that he probably was going to be a solid number 2 come in. But all of a sudden, at training camp, this man catching one-hand snags, catching passes all over the cornerbacks. And the Saints were like, man, this might be our guy for the future. And they were right. And they were able to use, his talent to, get trade value out of Brandon Cooks, and the rest is history, man. So they can't always just look at guys with sexy names and think big time free agent acquisitions going to help your team, because that's not the case all the time. Saints are always late to the party. Should have signed Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins. I absolutely 100% disagree with that. I 100% disagree with that. I don't understand why people just think that, let's just go ahead and let me just play devil's advocate real quick. Let's just say you do sign these guys. How much money you think that these guys going to be asking for? Okay, if Michael Thomas has a 5-year, $100 million contract, what you think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be asking for? So you mean to tell me you're going to put $200 million into the wide receiver position? You mean to tell me that you're going to be putting in about $20 million, $40 million combined each year for wide receivers? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, my friend. Like I said, this is like these guys aren't going to be playing for free. And these guys, they're trying to get the best money possible. You don't think DeAndre Hopkins is looking at Michael Thomas and he's like, man, Michael Thomas getting this money. I think I'm better than Michael Thomas. I'm considered a top 3 receiver. You don't think that he's looking at the fact that, man, he wants more money than Michael Thomas when his contract comes up? So you're going to invest $40 million inside of the wide receiver position. That's not very smart, man. I mean, you got to think about it. What about your quarterback? What about him? You know what I'm saying? What about your quarterback? What about those other skill positions? What about your offensive lineman? The left tackle is one of the highest paid players on the team, man. So you're telling me that you're going to put 2 guys, that's worth $40 million a year on one side or another. Well, how are you going to give them the ball? Because you're not going to be able to give them the ball because the offensive line that you're going to get not going to be that good, because you're only going to be able to get guys of, very low value in order to block for them. It's not a good move, man. I like Stephon Diggs and I like DeAndre Hopkins, but that wouldn't be smart for business. It wouldn't be. If we're playing Madden and the salary cap was off, oh, heck yeah. I mean, all day, but we're not. And they have to be very smart about this, man. I wish those guys the best. But, I mean, that's not the way that you do business, man. You already got your top receiver that's going to be demanding a whole bunch of money. No need to go out here and get another guy that's going to demand just as much money, if not more. I don't think that's a good idea. Jay Renard says anybody can look good on paper, but you still have to gel and play well on the field. Who that? Jay, absolutely. I was talking about that earlier too. I remember, a couple years ago, the Philadelphia Eagles, they had what they called the dream team. They had Michael Vick, they had Vince Young, they had Nnamdi Asomugha, they had Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. Everybody was like, man, God dog, man, these guys got all these weapons, and like, man, they're shooing for the Super Bowl. They didn't even make the playoffs. I even, give you another example, and this is going to hit home. I remember when the Saints, got Jarius Byrd, and, you know what I'm saying, then Champ Bailey came along, you know what I'm saying, and then, you had Keenan Lewis, and people like, man, like the Saints going to win the Super Bowl. They picked the Saints as a Super Bowl favorite. The Saints didn't even make the playoffs. So all I'm saying is this, man. Teams look good on paper, just like Jay just said, but you got to go out there and play within them lines, man. I mean, there's nothing, better than chemistry. I mean, look at the Cleveland Browns, man. You got LSU, you know what I'm saying, on both sides of the ball. You got Greedy Williams over there with Denzel Ward. You got Odell Beckham Jr. You got Jarvis Landry out there. You got Olivier Vernon as a linebacker. You got all of this talent, okay? You got all this talent on this team, and they ain't even make the playoffs. It's about chemistry. It's about guys humbling themselves for the greater good of the team. And no matter how many guys you bring in, if guys can't humble themselves, then they're not winning nothing. Excuse me. That's just a fact. We need a DM bad, man. Cam needs help. Cam has help. He just doesn't stay healthy, and that's in Marcus Davenport, man. Look, I'm not ready to write this man off. I'm just not. I just think that, he just had a tough couple of years when it comes to injuries. I mean, this guy has a long career ahead of him. And I think that we haven't seen the best out of him. I see some flashes. I see some what he can be, but he just got to stay healthy. I do feel like they need to get somebody they can rotate with, Trey Hendrickson. I think he does a good job. And I think the Saints may need to just sign another pass rusher, probably somebody in free agency. I don't know who's available. I'll be honest with you, the way the Saints were moving money around, man, I don't know if they're trying to get somebody like Jadeveon Clowney or not. I don't know what's going on with that. The way that they're renegotiating contracts with Michael Thomas to Ryan Armstead. Normally teams do that when they're trying to get some big free agent. That's just what it is. So, and I don't know, man. Jadeveon Clowney, I mean, he still hasn't signed with a team yet. But a lot of people, kind of raising their eyebrows at Clowney. They feel like what he's asking for, his numbers ain't matching up with it. So that's why he's still out there. He hasn't signed with anybody yet. How is the Saints line on both sides? Well, the offensive line, a lot of people saying that they need another offensive lineman. I agree with that. I do feel like they need to get themselves another offensive lineman, maybe in a draft, a young guy who probably can, learn under somebody like Larry Warford, or even Nick Easton, possibly can take Nick Easton or Larry Warford's place. We already solidified at the center position. I mean, Eric McCoy did an outstanding job. To Ryan Armstead, I mean, he plays really well, but we all know that, around week 8 or week 9, we might be missing him for about 2 to 3 weeks. Ryan Ramczyk, I mean, come on, man, dude is a straight up beast. So I think they're good at the offensive line. The defensive line, I think you got a lot of promise on that line, man. You got Cameron Jordan, who is the spear of the line, or the anchor, anchor, so to speak. You got defensive tackles galore, man. Malcolm Brown played outstanding. Shai Tuttle, a young kid coming on strong. Mario Edwards made some plays. And also you got Sheldon Rankin. So, I mean, the defensive tackle position, probably one of the most elite positions. And not to mention you just signed David Onyemata back for 3 years. So, man, defensive tackles, they straight. The only side that you have to focus on is the side that Marcus Davenport is on. I mean, right there, I don't think the Saints are getting that much pressure. So, I don't know, man. Maybe the Saints are trying to look at somebody like Jadeveon Clowney to come in, or somebody else that's out there. But the way that they're moving money around, I'm just saying, I'm not going to say that they're trying to sign him, because I'm not going to jump out the window like that. But I will say when teams start renegotiating contracts like this, they do it because they're trying to get, a big-time free agent. That's what they normally do. So what do you think about Emmanuel Sanders coming to the Saints? Ricky, I think that will be a good move. I think that he will fit in well with the New Orleans Saints. I think that looking at Emmanuel Sanders, I think that he would be a good contributor to the team. I think that he can be that number 2 receiver for right now until that rookie wide receiver develops. I mean, he's about 32 to 33 years old. I think he'll be 33 when the season starts. So when you have a guy like that can come in and be on the other side of Michael Thomas, that gives that other young receiver time to develop in order for him to kind of polish his craft. And around that time, Emmanuel Sanders will probably, 1, be ready to retire, or 2, the Saints ready to move in a different direction. So I think he would be a good pick for the New Orleans Saints. How do you feel about the Malcolm Jenkins signing? Robert, I said on my last video last night, and if y'all haven't, man, check it out. I went about 20 minutes talking about some Saints news. I talked about everything from Sean Payton testing positive for coronavirus to the fifth-year option of Ramczyk and Lattimore. But, I'll go ahead and answer the question for you. What I feel about it, man, I've been asking about this and wanting this ever since I seen that the Philadelphia Eagles released this guy. I'm happy that the Saints got him back because I don't think people put enough credit or give enough credit to players that are veterans that are like coaches on the field. I mean, that is huge for a young secondary. That is huge for young players. When you have somebody at your position that you can learn from, a person that has been in a foxhole, has been to war, has won championships, has been on the highs, have been on the lows, have been with his back against the wall. He'll be able to pull something out of these young players that they didn't have. He'll be able to see the field the way some of these young players can't see the field. And I mean, he's productive. People are talking about this guy's age, but once again, he played 6 years with the Philadelphia Eagles and he never missed a game. He never missed a game. I mean, come at the safety position, man, at the position where you have to be hitting these 250-pound tight ends. You got to be hitting those 220-pound wide receivers. I mean, somebody can roll over your leg. I mean, you can mess up your shoulder trying to tackle somebody. But this guy has been on the field for 6 years straight and didn't miss a game. So he has durability. He has leadership. He has good instincts. I mean, he's a good locker room guy. He's a part of the Players Association. People look for him for leadership, not just on the field, but off the field as well. So you can't knock that. I mean, the same qualities that we look at when it comes to Drew Brees, his leadership and him being a coach on the field, I think people need to look at Malcolm Jenkins the same way. I don't see how anybody can think that this is a bad move. I just don't. I don't see how anybody can think that the Saints re-signing Malcolm Jenkins is a bad move. This is going to be helpful to so many of these players, especially somebody like Marcus Williams. I just feel like it. Like, how many times have y'all looked at these videos that I've done, and I said that Marcus Williams reminds me of a young Malcolm Jenkins? He does. I mean, the way that he plays, the stuff that we used to criticize Malcolm Jenkins for, it's the same thing that we're criticizing Marcus Williams for. I'm telling you, it's going to really help that secondary. I mean, I'm very happy with the signing. Do you think we should bring back Peat? The longer I look at free agency, the more I'm starting to think that he might come back. I was highly surprised, man. I was highly surprised that the New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Saints offensive lineman Andrus Peat hasn't been signed by a team yet. That shocked me. I thought for a fact somebody would have went ahead and picked up Andrus Peat by now. But, I mean, that just goes to show you, man, when you think that you have all the answers, they change the questions. Do I think he can come back to the Saints? Yes, but I highly doubt that, man. I don't think that he'll be able to come back to the Saints. I think a team is probably going to, gamble on him. I think that they're going to try to, probably pick him up. I think that free agency kind of slowed down because of everything that's going on with the coronavirus. The fact that teams can't, do physical on these players and stuff like that. Everybody is not going to get, be an exception like Tom Brady, who was able to go to New York and go through a physician that both parties agreed with to give him a physical. I mean, teams want to be able to put their doctors' eyes on these players. And Andrus Peat, he was injured this past season. So even though, he came back, I think teams still want to have their doctors take a look at him before they decide to sign him. I think that's the only thing that's holding a team up from trying to sign Andrus Peat. We are getting better by drafting better. Yep. That's going to help you win down the line. Who's the best receiver in the draft? Ruggs, Judy, or Jefferson from LSU? I say Ruggs and Judy because I'm from Bama. Yeah, I kind of figured that, man, when you said LSU. Who I think is the best receiver in the draft, man, that's tough to say. I'm never, I never buy into what people be selling. Like, I excuse me. I know that there's a lot of guys out here that guys be like, man, he's the next big thing, and then he end up like just being straight hot garbage. You look at some of the receivers that went before Michael Thomas. I don't think any of them still in the league. I think stuff for Justin Ross, if I'm not mistaken. The rest of those guys, you know, kind of fade to black. So, I mean, on paper, it looked like, you know, CeeDee Lamb is the best receiver in the draft. You know, and also then Jerry Jeudy, then, you know, Justin Jefferson, you know. So, but, I mean, only time will tell. I mean, you don't know who's going to be the best wide receiver in the draft. It might not be any of those guys. It might be somebody like Brandon Ayuk. It might be somebody like Gandy Golden. It might be like somebody like Laviska Shenault. I mean, you never know. You never know when it comes to these players. It all depends on where they go, the type of coaching that they get, and how hungry they are. If they, you know, if they meet those three qualities, if they're hungry, if they get good coaching, and, you know, saying they want it bad enough, then who knows? I mean, sky's the limit. Never mind, we just re-signed Pete. Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, they re-signed Andrus Peat, so that's a good thing. You don't have to worry about that. We need to sign wide receiver Anderson from the Jets or Perriman from the Bucks. Eric, I would have to go with Perriman for the Bucks. Look, man, I'm not trying to, like, you know, poo-poo on anybody's thoughts, but I'm just like, why would you want to put so much money into one position? You know what I'm saying? And a dependent position at that. It's a dependent position. I don't want to put money into a dependent position like that. You know, like, I understand that Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but come on, man. You can get guys that can put up that same type of production, and it's not going to cost so much money. Robbie Anderson is going to cost some money because he's young and he was the leading receiver on his team. So it's not okay. It's not okay in a perfect world. I would want Robbie Anderson. What he brings to the table is man, off the charts. I mean, it's yards after the catch for a guy being that skinny and that frail to be out there making plays the way he does. I mean, bravo. You know what I'm saying? I give him props. And Perriman, man, I mean, come on, man. I got a lot of respect for this guy. This guy started off a rough road getting drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, 2 season-ending injuries, but he ended up resurrecting his career with Tampa. A lot of respect for him. But if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Perriman because he's not going to cost that much and he can give you some production. I mean, you already have your number one receiver, folks. There's certain positions that I don't feel like you need to be putting a huge amount of money into, and the wide receiver position is one of them. Somebody said we just signed Pete. Oh no, we re-signed Pete. I'm not going. Like I said, I'm not going to knock Andrus Peat. I think he's good. I think he's good, man. Honestly, I mean, I understand. You know, he has his weak moments. I think he can, you know, get a little tougher. But he does a good, solid job, man. I mean, this guy, you know, he get beat on some plays sometimes, but I mean, for the most part, man, he does a good job. I mean, his career kind of varies. First year, he played solid. Second year, he played like trash. Third year, he was lights out. The fourth year, not so much. You know, so it's like, you know, that's kind of like his career. But I think he deserves a contract, man. I'm not mad at that. And he's young. Like, I don't think people understand how young Andrus Peat is. I think he's like 24, 25 years old. That guy's a baby. You know, so he has a lot. Still has a lot to learn. And I think he's going to get better. Yeah, Clowney isn't what we need number-wise. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying, Zane. That's the reason why he's still on the street. I mean, the production ain't matching up with the numbers that he's talking about. And then not to mention you always injured, dude. Like, come on, man. You got to be realistic. You know, maybe you need to fire your agent if he up there telling you that you worth the moon and the stars, where you're not even, you know, you're not even worth the, you know, I mean, the quilted Norton that we wipe our behinds with, you know, to be honest with you. You know, like I look at Jadeveon Clowney. I think that he's a freak of nature, but I think that he's at this stage, he's just a solid defensive end. He's not a top 10 defensive end. You know, I just think that he's a good, solid guy that you can probably put into your lineup that can be productive, but you always got to count on the fact of him getting hurt somehow. So you have to kind of limit his reps. Jenkins was also a problem against offensive. I don't know what that is. Offensive plays, I guess. You're absolutely right. I felt the same way about Jenkins. He just resigned with the Saints. What will the Saints do at backup quarterback? That's a good question right there, LJ. I wish I had the answer for you, but as of right now, it looks like Taysom Hill is the backup quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. And, of course, the Saints are probably going to end up getting a guy in free agency. They're probably going to end up drafting one. You got to look at it this way too, man. Like, there's always ways around this. I mean, you got to look at, you got guys like Jalen Hurts that's out there. You end up making Taysom Hill like the backup quarterback, or even, have, Jalen Hurts serve as that backup quarterback role. Or they can kind of split it, and you can still have Taysom Hill to do some of the things that he was doing. But the way that it sounds, it seems like the New Orleans Saints are going to expand the playbook on Taysom Hill. He's probably going to be more heavily involved in the quarterback play this season versus, seasons of past when he was lining up at tight end and the running back and special teams. I don't see him playing on special teams that much anymore. I think the Saints are probably going to go ahead and probably suspend him from playing on special teams. He probably, be in some packages, tight end packages, maybe lined up at the fullback position. But I don't think he's going to be on special teams anymore. That's too risky right now, especially for a guy you're saying is going to be the future of your team, so you're saying. In my opinion, if we are going receiver as our first pick, I will look at either Ruggs, Jefferson, or Claypool. Yeah, I like Claypool, man. I like him out of Notre Dame. He had a really good combine. He really impressed me, especially with his story and stuff like that, man, coming from Canada, playing at Notre Dame. Man, that's one of those guys that you root for. As far as like Ruggs and Jefferson, Ruggs may be there, but I'm not going to lie to you, man. Ruggs is very underrated, and so is Jefferson. These guys were kind of like just, little fish in an ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were guys who were so good, but the guys in front of them were a little bit better. Like you look at somebody like Jamar Chase. You look at guys like that. I mean, Jefferson kind of suffered because of that, but did he really suffer? I mean, dude had like 4 touchdowns in the Peach Bowl. So it was never a question that he couldn't play. It was just the fact that, how fast he was. And when he answered that question, I just think that he blew those guys away. He's going to be in the top 15. I don't think the Saints are going to end up being able to get Justin Jefferson because I think he'll be gone. Claypool, he'll probably still be there. And Ruggs may still be there. Depends on, if a team decides to draft him or not. But looking at like some of these teams, I can see Ruggs end up going to a team, in those early rounds as well. So you're probably going to be looking at a guy like Claypool, or a guy like Ayuk, or a guy like Chenault, or Gandy Golden, or guys like that. So I'm interested. And honestly, it's not even set in stone that the New Orleans Saints are going to end up, getting a wide receiver in the first round. They might end up trying to, get another quarterback. We never know. If we draft a wide receiver, I say Brandon Ayuk, or however it's spelled, due to playmaking after the catch, or Jefferson because he wants to play for us, so he'll be hungry, and we'll get 100% from him. Yeah, Cody, man, that's a good point. Brandon Ayuk, a lot of people are projecting him to end up with the Saints. I just don't feel like Justin Jefferson is going to be there, man. I just think that the question about his speed was answered at the combine, him running at 4.4. So you already know he can catch. You already know he can run all the routes. You know that you can line him up on the outside and the inside, and he's a playmaker. So I don't think he's going to be there. Let's see. It's another part of your question I wanted to make a point about as well. As far as like them being hungry, I think they both are, be hungry players. Brandon Ayuk, 9.9 average yards after the catch, led the nation. Also was a double All-American on special teams, as well as being a wide receiver. So he has the pedigree, man. And I think he'll be one of those guys. I mean, he can also help out in the kick return game. I mean, I know we got Devontae, Harris and stuff on punts. And I know they probably have him returning kicks, but they also gives you like that rotator guy. I mean, Harris did a really good job this season, but he did get hurt. He was out for a couple games, so why not have another guy come in like IU that can return kicks as well? I think that would be a good move. But let me see. See if I missed any questions. I want to make sure I get everybody's opinions. Oh no, we resigned Pete. And y'all crazy. I think I pretty much answered everybody's questions so far. I think Jefferson will be there at 24. I don't know, man. I don't know, Cody. All of the mock draft that I see, they got him going like to Philadelphia. They got him going to like the Redskins and stuff. Like, man, he might end up in the NFC East, man. And he deserves it, man. I don't honestly, man. Like, I look, as much as I want him to be at 24, I would want him to be drafted higher because this guy deserves it, man. I mean, this guy put in the work. What he had about 18 touchdowns this past season, over 1,500 receiving yards. I mean, he deserves it, man. I mean, this guy worked his whole entire life for that particular moment, and he went to like this sporting this sporting camp or something like that to help him work on his 40-yard dash. Man, he worked so hard in order for him to get to this point, and he goes out there, he blows the combine completely out of the water, and now he improved, so if the Saints ain't trying to move up for him, then good luck to wherever he goes. But, I just think that there's so many other receivers, Cody, that the Saints could get, and you would look at them like, okay, man, we missed Justin Jefferson, but, I'm really excited at what the receiver that the Saints have. I would be really excited. I think that you'll feel that way. So, but I just want to say thank you all for checking out the live, and appreciate you taking the time out and also asking your questions. And feel free to inbox me. You can inbox me any question you want in regards to the Saints. I apologize to some people. Sometimes I know I see like different inboxes and messages and, people asking me questions. And sometimes, a lot of things be going on, between working at the station, this whole COVID-19 situation, also being a dad, sometimes I can't get to the questions right away, but I guarantee, I try to answer as many questions as I can. And I appreciate y'all, for submitting the questions. That's very humbling, for you all to, ask me questions just to try to get my perspective. I really do appreciate that. But you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints Podcast. And also, if you have not followed this page, you can follow it. And also the State of the Game Podcast, you can follow that on Facebook as well as youtube.com. Subscribe to that channel as well. Thank you all very much for spending time with me. Y'all be safe. And like always, all I got to say is, who dat?